Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the Cube Street 2, and there's some things that I forgot to mention in the last video, and yeah, so it's just some little tips and things, my latest findings, and yeah, just some stuff to talk about, and yeah, hopefully I'll try and remember them all. So the first thing, okay, so we were talking about EQ before, and I never really mentioned my thoughts on the middle. So it's an unusual placement for EQ. I think it's about 750 hertz, somewhere around there, maybe 700, 800. So you're in that kind of region. It's a strange place. I think it's not. I think I touched upon usually your mid EQ on a console would probably be controlling about 2.5 kilohertz. So this one does about 800. It's centered around 800 hertz, um, which is unusual. I've not seen that before. Um, so it's not quite your low mid range, um, but what I think it controls is, I would say, um, it's different for men and women. I think for women, it controls the body and the kind of lower regions of the singing, whereas for men, I think it seems to control like the breathiness sort of area. If you were sort of singing like "Hey," that kind of singing, or if you call that singing, that kind of region, you can emphasize, with just a touch of middle, you can emphasize that, but I wouldn't overdo it with the middle. Um, and I hadn't really experimented with cutting, so I hadn't really sort of seen what effect that has. It may clean up the vocals a little bit. It might make it a little cleaner. It may take away a lot of the uh, not I'm not saying presence, but a lot of the I don't know what the word is, but it might just take away some of the. It's not the body, but it's part of the body, shall we say, the upper part of the body. Obviously, lower mid takes care of that, and I think on this you probably have too much. As with most, when you're using a microphone, you have too much, so I reduce quite a bit of that. I've You probably notice I've put more treble on now, but there is a reason for that, and I'll get to that in a minute. There's something I've discovered. I think it could be a good point. Um, but yeah, and I wouldn't overdo it too much with a reverb. Okay, but I think we've pretty much covered that. Um, yeah, I don't know if that makes too much sense. I'm just gonna have a little bit of my water. I've started drinking because of the cold weather, and you get really croaky. So I don't fully boil the kettle. I get it to maybe where it's just starting to seeing some steam. If you can catch it before that, probably even better. But yeah, just get that, breathe it in. You can't beat it. It's just helps that croakiness at this time of year when you're singing. If you can take a flask of hot water, just kind of boil it up, and that really helps you sing. It's better than anything. I think it's better than honey or lemon or anything like that. Just plain water, just completely still plain water is but a little bit hot or warm just kind of takes that croakiness away from when you're singing, which I suffer from that quite badly. Okay, so the second thing, oh, actually, I suppose that's the third thing that I want to talk about is this little line out thing here. So that's a great feature. Probably should have mentioned this first, actually. So that's brilliant. So you've got the line out, quarter-inch jack. You've got the line out, and so there's so much you can do with that. So let me see if I've got one here. You could, if you were playing in a big place, so different options. You could have this, away from you, quite loud, maybe near the crowd, and you might need to hear yourself, You know, so you could take a line out and just have this sit in front of you as a monitor, or if you've got a real monitor, well, I suppose you probably wouldn't have a, you know, you might have, but yeah, you know, I've experimented with trying it. So I had that. So obviously, you know, you understand about the placement of the where the mic is in relation to your speakers. You normally behind this, so you don't hear the clarity of what's coming out. It's a little bit muffled, so sometimes, you know, you might want to hear yourself to make sure that you're singing properly, and you need to hear it clearly to know what you're doing, to hear how it sounds. So you could use the line out into a little speaker like this. It's not much more to carry, and you can use it as a monitor. Or, I mean, I've got a second speaker. I've got an old karaoke speaker, which is not too bad quality. I could go into that, and you could use it as, you know, a secondary speaker to make everything louder, or, you know, to point at different areas of people. So you could have this pointing, you know, slightly to the left, and then you could have your other speaker pointing slightly to the right, so you're covering more people, and some more people can hear you when you're playing. Or you could use it as a filler if you were, you know, to be playing at a bar. If you had a job, you could use a second speaker and then have this one. The other one, you could run it out further into the crowd as a filler, um, or, you know, you could go take a line out from this and go into a PA system, the house PA, you know. And I've also tried just taking it straight into a what do you call it, a Focusrite, Scarlett Focusrite, just to take a recording from it. And yeah, I took a recording directly from it, and it actually sounded okay. It didn't sound too bad at all. So that's really handy. What else could you use it for? I mean, you know, use your imagination. There's, you know, obviously all those kind of things anyway. You know, so filler speakers and you know, void. Is it void? Filler speaker. Anyway, that kind of thing. Or just to make the whole sound louder. You know, you can hook it up with a second speaker, a bigger speaker, or, you know, if there's one where you're playing, you could hook it up to that speaker and still have the sound that you're used to. Um, and also have it louder. So yeah, I think that's brilliant that you have that. You know, the features on this are brilliant. You know, so the other thing that I want to talk about is I touched upon the compression before, and it seems that if you sing quite loudly into it with a normal microphone, you know, if you're quite close and you're singing loudly into it, you have this problem with the compression when you're singing louder. So there's not much you can do about that. You know, there's no gain or preamp or anything that you can control. Obviously, you've got the volume, but I think that's post. That's post the compression and everything else. So, you know, if you're singing loudly into it, when you sing loudly, you're going into it seems like it's becoming compressed. So my solution was I've switched microphones. So this is good for when you're outside. It's not the right one for this microphone, but obviously I'm using an SM57, and you know, the pop shield or grill, whatever, is not designed for singing into. So I just pop this on top. It's from a different microphone. It's from one of my other microphones, but I think it'll be quite good. Hopefully for you know, if there's a lot of wind, it might just kind of help with that. So okay, so why have I gone from an SM58, a PG58, to an SM57? It's because I'm trying to get this in focus, but I don't want to do it. It's because it's quieter. I think the impedance of a PG58 is about 300 ohms. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the impedance of an SM58, obviously designed for things like snare drums and loud instruments, the impedance is 150 ohms, so a lot less. So that makes the output signal goes out, and then when it goes into here, everything's quieter, which means you don't run into the compressor as much. And it seems to work. It doesn't trigger the compression quite as much. So I'm singing loudly into this mic, and it goes into here, not hitting the compressor as hard. It's not getting compressed. It sounds better. And then if it's not loud enough, then you can just turn it up a bit. Obviously it'll be quieter, so then you have to turn it up, but that's post compression. So yeah, it seems to work. Long and short of it is, if you've got quite a loud voice, I think sometimes I've not got a massively loud voice, but sometimes I do go sing quite loudly. And if you do a microphone with more impedance, less impedance, I don't know, I forgot now. But this basically, anything with a that's quiet, microphone that's known for being quiet. This one's known for being quiet. Another one that's well known for being quiet is the Shure SM7B. The drawback with using that is, well, I think it probably won't fit on a stand. They're not designed to go on stands like this. And the other problem is, I think you would have to use it, maybe be too quiet. I'm not 100%. I don't have one. I can't tell you. It might be too quiet. That means you probably have to use, something like a cloud lifter or something similar to get a little bit more volume. But then it might just defeat the whole object. If you've got a microphone with a pad, although usually microphones with a pad are more designed for drums, and they tend to be condenser microphones. But if you've got a microphone with a pad, or if you've got any way you could pad it, basically anything that's going to reduce the volume before you go into here, that again will help. So anything that you can do to reduce the volume, if you've got something that you could just fit in, that's not going to make it sound bad, but just reduces the volume before you go in, and then you don't hit the compression, so you don't get the bad sounds of too much over compression, and then you can turn up your volume if you need it, or like you say, I've got quite a loud voice. Well, you just set the volume to what you need. And then the other thing that I meant to touch upon on the last video is, as you can see, the way I have this microphone is quite tilted. It's got quite a lot of I'm not singing straight at it. I'm sort of singing over it almost. So my mouth would be there, singing in that direction. So most people obviously would be going straight into it, and I don't know, somehow I know it's quite a common thing to do, but when you go straight into it, there's a lot of bassiness, especially if you get closer. If you just kind of have it so that I know it sounds counterintuitive, but so that you're kind of singing past it, those sound waves, it's still loud, but again, it just helps not be too bassy. It helps it from, stopping from being too bassy. It's a technique you've kind of got to just work on, but it might be worth trying. Give it a go. See what you think. It's yeah, it seems to work for me. It adds clarity. I mean, it's just a case of from there, just experiment. The technique seems to work better with the PG58. So I kind of get my mouth, and I think it's because your lip is directing the sound. It comes out of your mouth, but it's hitting your top lip, hitting the sound, and then coming down, and then it gets a lot of clarity. You know, when you get really close. I mean, obviously you never want to be so close. I don't think there's not often there's occasions where I'm singing and I'm actually making contact with the grill, but it's in a very specific way. Most of the time, most of the singing, you know, you don't want to be that close. Maybe about this far away, but you know, obviously that's all pretty well covered by people. You know, but yeah, if you don't know that, you know, I've seen people getting really right up on it with the mouth, and it just sounds muffled. And yeah, it's probably not the best technique in my opinion. So that being said, okay, next thing. I just thought of it and now I've forgotten. Um, the next thing that I was gonna say. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I was talking about guitar pedals. So I was talking about guitar pedals before, and you know, using guitar pedals. Just before I move on though, yeah. The drawback with the SM57, I've just got to warn you before you go out and buy one. If you've listened to this and you think, oh, that's for me, I've got a loud voice. And the drawback is, yeah, there is a reduction in bass with the SM57. There isn't a reduction in volume. So if you've got a loud voice, it's definitely worth considering. Or if you know, even if you don't have a loud voice, but you shout and you sing loud, um, yeah, when you do sing loud into an SM58 and SM57, because it's a little bit middly, I've started to, you know, I notice maybe it doesn't completely sound too great. Um, you know, it does sound, it sort of has this kind of mid distortion. You can kind of work your way around it, but yeah, it's just something that you have to think about. So maybe if there's any way of getting, without destroying the sound, getting something in between here as a pad, just to reduce the volume in a different way and using a SM58 or PG58 or whatever mic, but you can reduce the volume so that you know you're going into it with not too much of a loud signal going in, and then you can boost up the volume with the volume knob afterwards. It probably gets a better result. So that's just something to consider. Okay, we're getting up to 20 minutes now. I don't want to go over 20 minutes. So we'll move on to the last thing. So I was talking about guitar pedals, um, and I discovered there's a really big loss of quality when you know using a jack lead from a microphone into a guitar pedal. So there's an adapter that you can buy. Shure makes one, Audio Technica makes one, but you can buy cheap ones off of Amazon. It's called a uh, transformer, signal transformer, something along those lines. I can't remember the exact name. I'll put a link. I can't remember now, but I'm running out of time. So what I'll do is I'll put it in the description, the full name of what it is. But basically, all it is it takes, you know, it's just like this, except you know it looks like that, so you can plug it in. But there's at the back here, just at the back there, there's a place where you can plug your SLR lead in straight from your microphone. It can come down and plug into your into the end of there, and then you can plug into your guitar pedals. It changes from, supposedly changes the signal from high impedance to low impedance, whichever way around it is, the way that you need. Make sure that you know, basically coming from a mic to a guitar, make sure that you've got it the right way around. I think the one in the description that I'm going to put in will be the right one. And then yeah, I haven't got one yet. They're about 20 to 30 pounds, maybe 28 pounds I think for the Shure one. And by all accounts, it's all you need. You don't need a preamp. You've got enough volume. It's just the sound quality. And there we go, just under 20 minutes. Yeah, thanks for watching.